Unsung Murder Ballads discusses topics of a disturbing nature.
And we're not going to hold back on the graphic details and disturbing content.
So we do not recommend our podcast for children under the age of 13.
And while we respect the victims and their families involved in these tragic cases,
we're also going to be critical of mistakes that are made during the investigations.
And we're going to use dark humor to express ourselves now and then.
So with that said, this podcast may not be for everyone.
And that's okay. We're glad you're here checking us out.
And if you've made it this far, welcome to the Unsung Murder Ballads family. And follow us on Instagram at Unsung Murder Ballads if you want to talk to us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unsung Murder Ballads. This is episode 111. I am Janice Dead.
I'm Jameson Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
All right, so before we begin, I want to make everybody think back to episode 95, which was our...
Whoa, that was a while ago.
Well, it's 15 episodes ago. It's not that long ago, but it was our second roulette episode where we did episodes of family members being killed by family members.
Yes, yep.
And I want to bring your attention back to help you remember. The last case we did in that episode was about a little girl named Harmony Montgomery who went missing from Massachusetts when she was taking New Hampshire with her father. This was the girl who they killed and put in a bag, and he would bring her to work and put her in a freezer. And that. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awful.
They are making a documentary about her case. And,
what?
Yep. And this is going to dig deep into the secrecy of the Massachusetts child welfare system, and apparently it's going to expose some big shit. So be on the
that's really cool.
Right, so
wow,
be on the lookout.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I'm dying to see that, and I'm curious as to what we're going to find out. So, yeah, that was a little
Probably
update.
A bunch of stuff they don't want us to know.
Oh, I'm sure, and I can't wait to know it. So we'll see how it goes. But that's our little update for a previous episode. And, all right, so tonight I guess we'll dive right into our case.
Let's do it.
Okay. So sometime after midnight on November 12th, 2012, Megan, 13 years old, woke up to her dog's barking and she heard screaming. The screams were coming from her mother's bedroom, so the teenager jumped into action. She ran into her mother's room, and that is where she discovered her sister on top of her mother, stabbing her repeatedly.
Oh my God, that's terrifying. What the fuck?
Megan tried to drag her sister off, but failed. She then ran to the phone and called 911. This 911 call is fucking brutal to listen to, so I will not subject you guys to it. But if anyone at home listening wants to kind of experience this, you can find it on YouTube. But she called and she literally told the operator, "My sister is stabbing my mother to death." And you can hear in the background the screaming, and and you hear Megan screaming, "Get off of her! Get off of her! Stop doing that!"
Oh, and it's probably already too late.
So this is the case of Sabrina Zunich. Sabrina was born on October 27th, 1994, near Cleveland, Ohio, to her parents Mark Zunich and Susan Edwards. Now, her parents were never married, and they had long battled with drugs and alcohol addictions. Her parents were often in trouble with the law, making her home environment obviously unstable.
That sucks.
I can't, again, we hear it all the time, but I still can't imagine how hard it must be for a child whose parents are super addicted in that way.
Unimaginable. You have to grow up so fast.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, my mother, thankfully, both my parents weren't addicts, but my uncles were. And I remember growing up on the periphery of it, but it was never so bad for me with my parents. So I'm blessed that way.
Right. It's ugly even to see from the periphery.
So in 1984, her mother, Susan, pled guilty to grand theft because
that's a good start.
Because she scammed the welfare department out of nearly $2,000.
What is grand theft? Define grand theft.
It's theft over $1,000.
Gotcha. Because I was Only Grand Theft I know about is Auto, and that's also a video game.
Yeah, that's because the car is usually worth more than $1,000, right?
Typically, yes. This makes sense. All right. Thanks, guys.
So her mother was sentenced to 6 months in prison with 5 years of probation to follow. In 1999, Sabrina's mother, Susan, had furnished drugs to a group of 14 or 15-year-olds in Cleveland.
What?
Yikes.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
So her sentencing was delayed in that case because she was giving birth to Sabrina's half-sibling, and she was later charged with obstruction of justice. By the time Sabrina...
Wait, charged with obstruction of justice for giving birth?
No.
Sorry, what?
No, I think she did something to try to get out of the drug charge or something. I'm not sure. Or
she intentionally got pregnant 9 months earlier.
That'd be really funny. So going back a little bit, by the time Sabrina was born, her father had already had a handful of drug and alcohol-related DUI charges, along with disorderly conduct arrests. At one point, while she was still young and being fed through a bottle, to get Sabrina to fall asleep, her parents would put vodka in the milk in her bottle.
No.
What the fuck?
Yeah. As a result...
That's the insane level of child abuse.
That's fucked up. Like,
That's so fucked up.
A baby would get addicted to that so fast. Like,
probably die first.
Is that too? But I'm picturing small enough amounts, but still, yeah, fuck that. Like, I remember giving like my younger siblings sugar water. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
But that's about the extent of it. Like, that shit's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, Sabrina had significant behavioral and mental health issues as a child, including...
I'm sure she did, because you're giving them brain damage.
Right? Including diagnoses for ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, bipolar, anxiety, and depression.
Oppositional defiance disorder. Sorry, this is my side note. That diagnosis is very annoying to me because that's literally just like, this child is very difficult. And it's a diagnosis. It's just, this child is difficult. Maybe because it has a fucking horrible life. Have you considered that?
I didn't I mean, it sounds like that's what that means. Like, it's you're rebellious, so we're gonna slap a...
So what is the actual diagnosis? I don't actually know what that is.
It's I don't think they even use that diagnosis anymore, but it's just a diagnosis, oppositional defiance disorder. It's basically just that your child is defiant.
Right.
And there's a lot of bias that goes along with it. That like it's given much more to, as far as I know, to female children, because female children are more expected to be compliant than male children.
Wow. Somehow I'm not surprised.
That kind of shit. And then it also, like many things, there's also racism involved. Of like, this is often given to poor or black children, people of color, when it's like, okay, this child maybe is defiant because their home life is bad and they're poor and maybe they didn't have breakfast. Leave them alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Joyce's soapbox of mental health.
No, we're learning stuff. That's good. That's what we want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Sabrina was taking 9 medications to manage her mental health conditions.
Oh my god! And she's how old?
At this point, she's reaching her teens. Just
Holy
crazy.
crud.
Even to keep track of that as a teenager?
It's crazy. So when Sabrina was 16 months old, I'm going back a little bit again, her father, Mark, was arrested for domestic violence. Now, her parents didn't live together, so she spent her time like back and forth. And when her mother was in jail, she would live with her father. And of course, when he was in jail, she'd be back with her mother. And eventually they reached a point where she had to go live with her grandmother in a small house in Wickliffe, Ohio.
What a horrible
I was wondering
life.
how long that was going to take before they were like, no, you can't like have her bouncing back and forth like that. Like, didn't anybody see that as an unhealthy thing?
That's assuming the state knew. Sometimes they're not even aware of it.
Oh, that's so awful.
Now, she's living with her grandmother, but this home is known to law enforcement as they were called there regularly, mostly because of Mark's drunken and often violent outbursts.
Yikes.
He committed petty crimes like tearing down street signs, but also more serious domestic violence issues involving Sabrina's mother, Susan. However,
awful.
As Sabrina got older and she became more defiant, her grandmother's health began to decline. And Sabrina, being so rebellious, proved to be too much for her grandmother to handle, as she's an elderly woman and has her own health issues. So, unfortunately, she was put into foster care. And that happens
and we know that doesn't often end well.
No, not often at all. So at 14, she enters the foster care system because at this point she has no other relatives that are willing or suitable to take her in. Her father was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, but refused treatments for his problems.
Wow.
So she's obviously not going there.
Mm-mm.
So Sabrina was bounced from foster home to group home and etc. Finally, in 2011, she was placed with a loving family. They were Lisa and Kevin Knoefel. That same year, Sabrina's biological father died of a drug overdose.
I mean, the guy sucked, but that's still so like destabilizing for the child.
And for her, yeah, I'm sure it really fucked her up. So with the Knoefels, Sabrina showed signs of improvement soon after moving in. Now, she was in the special education program, like as a student, and she began to actually earning better grades than she had before. Not great grades, but better than she had.
Improvement is good.
Her behavior also changed as well. She expressed wishes to pursue massage therapy as a possible career, and she got along with her two foster sisters, Megan and Haley. Now we need to talk about her foster mother, Lisa Marie McIntosh, who was born on May 20th, 1971, and Lisa's first child, Megan, was born in 1999 during her first marriage to a man named Nick Zanella, which ended in divorce in 2003. It was around 2006 that Lisa married Kevin Knoefel, and Kevin also had a previous child, a son from a previous relationship, and together they welcomed their own daughter, Haley, in 2009. Kevin worked as a truck driver, while Lisa was a social worker with the Department of Children and Family Services. She specialized in cases of child abuse, often those involving sexual abuse. So this woman she's a good person and recognizes the situation that Sabrina is coming out of.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lisa is described as being a passionate person that loved helping people, especially children. Now, she really believed in Sabrina and wanted her to succeed. Kevin and Lisa decided to become foster parents, further demonstrating Lisa's compassion and commitment to helping children. Reportedly, they'd previously fostered other children, but those children were so young that they were there for a bit and then, for whatever reason, they were moved on. But Sabrina was the first teenager to come into their home. Kevin Knoefel made nearly $51,000 annually driving for a trucking company, Gordon Food Services, and an additional $19,000 a year working for a bus company. So by all accounts...
So he was working a lot, I'm sure.
Yes, and by all accounts, the family was living a comfortable middle-class lifestyle. They had a beautiful 3-bedroom home that sat on an acre of land. They even had a trampoline in the backyard. And this house appeared to be your typical all-American house. Now, as Sabrina got closer to 18, she had hoped that the Knoefels would allow her to remain in their home until after she graduated high school. So this is one of those weird things with the foster care system, is once she's 18, they're no longer receiving money to keep her. So depending upon the people, there's no incentive to let her continue living there.
Mm-hmm.
So this was something that was in the back of Sabrina's mind as she's approaching 18, and she's going to turn 18 before she graduates. You can kind of see how that would weigh on somebody.
Oh, 100%, especially because of her life and how she doesn't expect stability from anything.
Exactly. All right, so Lisa and Kevin were eager to see Sabrina finish school, so they were more than willing to agree to allow her to stay in their home past 18. However, it was around this time that Lisa started butting heads with Sabrina. When she first moved in, things were great. Everybody got along well in this big, happy, blended family. But for some reason, Lisa started noticing subtle changes in Sabrina's behavior. Sabrina became more aggressive with her foster sister, Megan, and the two girls were often fighting over the little things, especially as they regarded the youngest sister, Haley.
Hmm.
Lisa also started to notice that Sabrina seemed to be becoming particularly close to her foster father, Kevin.
Hmm.
Now, according to Sabrina, Kevin was the only person in the household who liked her. Sabrina began to resent Lisa's rules and restrictions, finding it easier to talk to Kevin. She felt that Lisa treated her biological children better than she treated her, which that may be true because I can't imagine.
It may be true.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't. Yeah, I'm sure that's a difficult shift.
And I'm sure she's hypersensitive to that, so she would notice like any difference and feel like, oh, I'm being treated differently because of this.
Right. I mean, if she hugs the other two for 3 seconds longer or something, that would stand out, I would think.
Yeah, 100%.
So further adding to tensions, Lisa told her friends that she did in fact plan to force Sabrina to leave the house in January of 2013 when she turned 18.
Oof.
Wow.
Lisa was understandably uncomfortable with the relationship her husband seemed to be developing with Sabrina.
Oh.
She began overhearing conversations that implied a closeness that hadn't been there before. On September...
What kind of closeness?
So we getting freaky here? Like, what's going on?
We'll get to all that.
Oh, God.
On September 15th, 2012, law enforcement was called to the Knoefel residence. Kevin met officers outside saying that he had contacted them regarding a domestic dispute with his wife, Lisa. The couple had argued over Megan's behavior. At this point, I think Megan's 12. This is not Sabrina. This is Lisa's daughter from before she married Kevin. Kevin had apparently grabbed Megan by the back of her neck and then had escorted the girl to her bedroom while holding her by the neck. Lisa was angry at him for manhandling her daughter and started shouting at Kevin that he was choking Megan and that he needs to remove his hands from her neck. Kevin called law enforcement simply to document this incident, which is really fucking weird, right? If you're the one with your hands on a teenager, why are you the one calling the police?
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, because to be fair, maybe Lisa's overreacting a little if you have your hand on the back of her neck and maybe you're not squeezing, you're just kind of directing her to the room, almost like you would pick up a cat or a dog or something. But
yeah.
But it's still, I mean, he shouldn't have his hands on her that way. But I don't understand what he thought he was going to accomplish here.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
So he told officers that if there were ever a divorce, he didn't want Lisa to misconstrue the situation in a custody battle. And he was probably hoping to retain custody of his youngest daughter, Haley. Now, that's what these reports say. I don't really know if I buy it. I just think he wants to show his wife is unstable for some reason.
Yeah, discredit her so that, anything she says, is just ramblings.
Or something. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's hard to say with things like this. He's like who's
behaving
who's really
rashly.
being weird.
Yeah, because, I mean, for all we know, he's super overreacting and called the police to, I don't know, prove a point. I don't even know. So a few weeks later, the couple had seemed to patch things up. They went on a weekend camping getaway with some friends. And during this trip, Kevin confided to a male friend that he was considering filing for divorce. And then Kevin does something his friend considered disturbing. He took out his phone and began showing this friend photos of Sabrina, his teenage foster daughter. They were from a fashion photo shoot where she was dressed.
Oh, God.
Yeah, she wasn't dressed appropriately for a father figure to be having on his phone.
That's really gross.
Whoa.
That's really gross.
He even told this friend that Sabrina had bought him underwear.
What?
Yeah.
I don't like this at all.
Again, I'm freaked out by that because I don't know. Other than my mother and my ex-wife, no one's ever bought me underwear. So that's weird. Yeah.
No, this is so inappropriate.
So the friend...
And that he's bragging about it. That makes it 10 times weirder.
Exactly. So this friend, who became very concerned, asked Kevin if he was engaging in an inappropriate relationship with Sabrina. Kevin didn't deny it, and his friend was appalled.
Well,
What
yeah,
the
I would hope
fuck?
so.
I'm glad his friend's a normal fucking person.
Well, his friend didn't do enough, in my opinion.
Well, at least he's normal.
This relationship between Kevin and Sabrina had blossomed in the spring of 2012. Kevin often drove Sabrina to school when he wasn't on the road. During these drives to school, the pair started to hold hands and touching each other.
Ew.
Yep. And this eventually progressed to oral sex.
Oh, come on.
Sabrina had wanted to become a massage therapist, and Kevin had been experiencing, leg cramps and stuff like that. So he would have
I'm
her,
Mm.
he would, provide himself for practice.
Ew.
By the summer of 2012, the pair were having sexual intercourse.
Of course they were. Oh my God.
Kevin even took Sabrina to the bank, where they set up a joint checking account without anybody else knowing about it.
What the fuck?
Yep.
It just gets sicker and sicker.
In October of 2012, Sabrina's friends were surprised when she asked them if any of them knew a hitman who would help murder her foster mother.
Holy hell.
Oh, so the dad's in on it.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, yes. Since most teenagers argue with their parents, her friends thought Sabrina was joking and maybe just blowing off some steam.
Yeah, I could picture that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if people took me seriously with all the shit I said, I'd probably have been locked up many, many years ago.
Right. Like how many people haven't said like I'm gonna kill my parents?
Exactly. So Sabrina's friend Autumn Pavlik noticed how Kevin and Sabrina made a lot of sexual jokes, and she thought that the relationship might have been a little too friendly. She was also present during some revealing conversations that we're going to discuss a little later.
Oh, ew.
Meanwhile, Kevin calls the caseworker that's handling Sabrina's foster case. He told the caseworker that he and Lisa were divorcing, and he wanted to know if he could get Sabrina placed with him. The social worker told him it might be a possibility.
But she's like almost 18 at this point, so
Correct.
why would they need to place her?
I don't know. At the end of
Weird.
October, Sabrina finally turned 18, and Lisa was finally beginning to suspect that there was something going on between her husband and her foster daughter that was more than what she had initially thought.
How
you long enough.
horrific, especially like as a social worker herself, like knowing that you couldn't even keep your foster kid safe in your own home is really sad.
From your shitty predator husband, yeah.
Yeah.
So Lisa wanted Sabrina to find a place to live by the end of the year. So Kevin drove Sabrina to school. On that car ride, he broke down crying. Literally, this man has a meltdown and explains to this teenager that he can no longer handle life with Lisa.
Okay, so divorce, you bitch. Get over it.
He's just pouring it all out onto this young girl, and he takes it a step further and says that not only can't he handle life with her as his wife, he thinks that maybe she needs to die.
Oh
Holy fucking
God.
shit.
So obviously, Sabrina is easily manipulated by Kevin.
Right. She wants to
Of
please
course.
him and do everything that she can to make him happy.
Kevin had threatened suicide several times, saying that he needed
Oh
to
my
get
God,
Lisa
that's
out of
just
his
twisted.
life. Yeah. And feeling like her lover might take his own life, Sabrina felt she needed to take action and protect him.
Holy fuck.
She would later say, quote, "He was my friend and my father. Kevin was there to catch me because he never judged me and he always made me feel wanted," unquote.
Oh,
Sabrina
it's gross. It's so gross.
So terrible. Sabrina offered to murder Lisa for him, and Kevin did not object. Instead, he went home and packed a suitcase and headed off for Michigan. So he convinces this girl to kill for him, and then he gives himself a fucking alibi by getting out of the area.
What an asshole.
This guy's a complete douchebag.
And a stupid asshole. As if, like, this, like, 18-year-old is gonna be able to do this without getting caught.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit, too.
I'm guessing he doesn't care at this point.
Yeah, we're going to get into that, too. So around this time, during an argument with Megan, Sabrina pulled out a knife and threatened her.
Holy crap.
So Megan said that after this, she knew it was all downhill with her foster sister and that their relationship was irrevocably broken.
Mm-hmm.
So on November 12th, 2012, Megan woke to hearing screaming while Sabrina was attacking her mother, and she called the police. So she told the operator that her sister was stabbing her mother to death and that she was going to die. After 6 long minutes, the police officer finally arrived at her house. He pulled into the driveway and saw a young female at the front door, and not being fully aware of who she was, the officer pulled his gun on her. After clearing up the confusion, Megan tells him that he'd better hurry up. Her sister was stabbing her mother to death. The officer later testified that he went down a hallway and ordered Sabrina to come out with her hands raised. She did. And he said this young girl was bloody from head to toe, sobbing, holding a 12-inch knife that she had used to kill her foster mother.
Holy fuck.
So he handcuffed her and took her into another bedroom. And he goes in and he finds Lisa's body in the master bedroom. She was covered in blood with a total of 178 stab wounds.
How? How does that even fit on a human body?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we're actually going to break that down in a second.
Oh, God.
But if you were to listen to that 911 call, as Megan is yelling, stop it, stop doing that, like literally, you can't hear like the stabbing. It's not like a movie, but you can just imagine that this girl, like, 'cause she attacked Lisa while she was sleeping. So she's just on top of her, just going at it.
Oh.
Yeah. So Lisa had many defensive wounds on her hands. She was stabbed 62 times in the head and neck with
holy shit,
with an inch-deep laceration to her face, and some wounds were as deep as 3 inches into her neck.
Oh, no.
Her torso had been stabbed 27 times with puncture wounds to her chest and lungs.
Oh, my God.
And she had 89 stab wounds on her arms and legs, which is clearly where she's fighting her off. Her left pinky and right thumb were nearly severed by these injuries.
Oh, I hate this image.
Yes, Lisa clearly fought for her life, but unfortunately she was beyond saving. Now, the knife had been twisted into her body so many times that the blade of the knife had nearly broken off the handle.
Holy crud.
And when I say twisting, Sabrina was literally stabbing and then twisting the blade before pulling it back out each time.
That takes a lot of hate and a lot of anger and a lot of frustration. Like, how?
Yeah, she's upset, and again, we have to go back to, she's been manipulated down this path by a man who's claiming he's going to kill himself if she's still in his life.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
So at this point, the cop hears something a little strange. It's whimpering noises coming from the closet. He opens the door to find 4-year-old Haley hiding in the closet.
Oh my God, that must have been a nightmare for that child.
She was sleeping on the bed with her mother when the attack began.
No.
Oh my God.
How fucked up.
I don't even have words.
So Sabrina was taken into custody. Initially, she was taken to the hospital to be treated for her own wounds from the knife, but then she was brought to the station and questioned by police. She tried to claim that she couldn't remember anything that had taken place. However, However, when she was told that Megan and Haley had both seen what she had done, Sabrina broke down crying. But she continued to say that she had no memory of anything. So investigators were suspicious of Sabrina's claims because, not being able to remember something that you're being caught in the act of doing isn't normal. So they decided to keep digging. And law enforcement noted that Kevin's behavior was also unusual when they called him on the phone. He seemed very nonchalant about being informed that his wife had just been murdered.
Idiot.
At least put on an act or something. Come on.
Something. So when he returned from Michigan, Kevin didn't seem concerned at all that his wife had been brutally killed. He had an attorney present that constantly refused to discuss anything regarding his wife or his marriage. Like, this is an interesting video to watch because the lawyer's sitting there with him and the lawyer is talking to the police. Kevin's just sitting there in silence. And the lawyer says, so we all agree that the only thing we're going to be talking about here is Lisa's job. And then
Weird.
And then any questions that the police had that tried to bring it around to this, the lawyer would butt in and be like, nope, we're here to talk about her work and only her work.
What the fuck? No, that's very weird.
It's fucked up, yeah. Then Kevin asked if he could go home to see the crime scene.
What?
Yep. The officers advised him against it, warning that, quote, it's, this is going to be very troubling for you. It's horrific, unquote.
Apparently not enough.
But
he can't fucking act normal at all.
But he insisted on seeing the crime scene and asked for all the details of the murder. He wanted to know.
This is so weird.
I would tell him to go pound pavement. I'd be like,
Right?
You're not getting any of that information, pal.
Yeah, he wanted all the grisly, gruesome details.
I don't care who you are. You're not getting that. That's confidential information.
Yeah. The following day, when loved ones and friends converged on the Knoefel household, they were stunned at how calm Kevin was. Lisa's friend, Erica Gator, told an interviewer that Kevin appeared almost happy his wife was gone. He asked friends to close down Lisa's social media accounts for him and her email so that he wouldn't have to respond to any of those messages.
I mean,
Wow.
that could be a normal thing.
Maybe.
Because that could be like really upsetting if people are like sending messages to like your dead wife's account. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Right, but that would be like if you're so upset and distraught that you're crying and can't even look. This guy clearly doesn't give a shit about anything else.
Yeah, he's more of like, I don't want to be bothered.
Right. Kevin then drove to Lake County Jail where he asked to see Sabrina. He was denied the opportunity and he reportedly slammed his fist on the desk, causing a scene, yelling, "I am her father." The officer in charge arranged for Kevin to be added to Sabrina's visitation list, but did not allow him inside.
Damn. I guess she's above 18, so there's no like...
Well, it's against...
You have to let them see their parents?
No, it's against protocol for anyone to just show up and expect to see a prisoner without being on their visitation list.
Oh, got you. Okay. I've never visited a prisoner, so I'm not aware of these procedures.
I haven't either, but I looked into it when we first started this podcast in case I ever had the opportunity.
Gotcha.
And I'm pretty sure I've seen it on Orange is the New Black, but I could be wrong.
It's true. The only information I have.
Right? So at Lisa's funeral, Kevin asked everyone present to pray for Sabrina.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
This guy is deranged.
He's lost in his own fucking universe right there. Sometime after her funeral, Kevin was impatient to get his hands on the life insurance money, and he began hounding the insurance companies about a payout, calling them multiple times a day. Now, he would receive an insurance payout of $785,000, but people were saying that he could not wait to collect it. So in the spring...
Yeah, that's not okay. Like, you're supposed to not want that money. You shouldn't be like a kid at Christmas.
Right. I mean, you need some of it to like pay for services, blah, blah, blah.
Well, yeah, but I
like,
mean, you're somber about it. You're not like, gimme.
Well, Just wait. Because in the
God,
spring,
I hope he gets denied something.
because in this, oh, he gets the money. In the spring of 2013, Kevin took the money and he went to Florida where he bought a house. He took flying lessons. He paid off the mortgage for their home, which had fallen into foreclosure at that time. He bought fancy cars. But he also remained in the Oregon home with his mother and the youngest daughter, Haley. Literally, he's making his daughter stay in the house where she saw her mother murdered. Yeah.
He's so fucked up.
Now, Megan, who would eventually go on to stay with her biological father and his family, she witnessed Kevin using an axe to chop up the mattress that Lisa was murdered on.
So, like, destroying evidence?
Well, the evidence is done. I mean, well, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean.
But it's still weird fucking behavior.
Right? So Kevin was also awarded over $47,000 from the Attorney General's Ohio Victims of Compensation Program on behalf of Haley, his daughter, his youngest daughter, because he was the guardian of her estate. Now, I'm not really sure what that's all about. I didn't look too deep, but I'm going to guess they had some extra insurance thing in case of something like this. It's a weird thing, Ohio Victims of Compensation Program. Kind of weird.
Gotcha.
But anyway, he's getting more money, and it's becoming real obvious that Lisa was worth more to her husband dead than she was alive.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So information started coming out, painting a bleaker picture of Sabrina's life after she left the group homes and foster homes. A friend of hers told the Cleveland Scene that Sabrina had actually been using hard drugs. That when she moved into the Knoefel home, she was still using hard drugs. And this friend seemed to suggest that, perhaps Sabrina, like, using those drugs might have influenced her down this path.
Yeah, and that was never reported to the foster care system, I'm sure.
Correct. Because she says that sometimes Kevin would give her money and she would use that money to buy meth. This friend also claimed that Sabrina would try to earn extra money on Craigslist, as in escorting. So when this friend thought drugs were the issue, he had no idea that Sabrina was involved in a sexual relationship with her foster father. And that when he heard about the murder of Lisa, he assumed it was because she was high on those drugs.
Ugh.
So after being in custody for 6 months, Sabrina realized that her lover had abandoned her, that he took this money and had fucking run. And as any intelligent person would expect, Sabrina told investigators the whole story.
Let's go.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Kevin had told Sabrina that they would use that insurance money to buy a house and start a new life together. He promised to use the funds from Lisa's death to pay for Sabrina's college education and told her that they could help raise Haley together. Sabrina...
What the fuck?
Right? It's so...
As if she would be raised by someone she watched murder her mother. Are you for real?
Well, this was before the murder. This was the plan beforehand, yes. Now, Sabrina accepted responsibility for carrying out the murder, but wanted law enforcement to know that Kevin had actually been the mastermind. He had directed her to a specific knife to use and had demonstrated how to stab and twist the knife in Lisa's body. Kevin had discussed with Sabrina how to either make Lisa's death look like a burglary gone wrong, or that Sabrina should cut her own arms and legs, trying to claim that Lisa had attacked her and it was all done in self-defense. Kevin also discussed with Sabrina that if she were caught by police, she should say she didn't remember what happened and should claim insanity because she was on a lot of medications and had a long history of mental illness. Yeah.
Gotta love the insanity plea.
It's so
we all do.
Up. Now, what I don't understand is why did this guy think she was just going to sit there in prison and let him get away with it?
Yeah, that's the part that's like, damn, you know that she's capable of murder? You don't think she's capable of backstabbing? Like, bitch, the fuck?
I know she stabbed the other woman 178 times. She'll stab you once in the back.
Literally. Idiot.
So while
stupid.
He's an idiot. He's a fucking total douchebag.
Well, he probably thought that, her love for him was so blinding and so everlasting that she would never do anything like that.
Clearly, he doesn't truly understand what an 18-year-old is like.
Of course not. No.
So while there was no evidence confirming a physical relationship had taken place between Kevin and his foster daughter, investigators thought her story was credible. So they go looking back, and on the day of the murder, Sabrina and Kevin had exchanged text messages. So there's that. So reportedly, in the 2 months before the murder, they had exchanged roughly 2,000 texts between them.
Holy crud.
That's quite a lot of text messages, my friend.
Now, in contrast, during that same time period, he only sent his wife about 200 texts. So, nothing suspicious here, officer.
No, nothing to see here.
So, although the FBI were unable to recall the messages themselves, which is, again, a little weird, but what do I know about technology? It did demonstrate the close nature of Sabrina and Kevin's relationship. But detectives needed a smoking gun. Now, Sabrina told them that she had not only confided in a friend about the murder plot, but that Kevin had even talked about it in front of this friend as well. This is the friend I mentioned earlier.
Dang.
So police talked to Autumn, Sabrina's friend, and asked if she would make monitored phone calls to Kevin in hopes that they could get a taped confession. He said little about the crime over the phone. So then Autumn, frustrated because that clearly didn't work, she went to Kevin's house wearing a wire. He didn't admit plotting the murder or even having sex with Sabrina, but he didn't deny any of it either when Autumn was asking him about it. And so unfortunately it doesn't go too far, but it's an extra little stone to help in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
So 9 months after Lisa's murder, Kevin Knoefel was finally arrested on August 9th, 2013, and charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, complicity to aggravated murder, and sexual battery. When police arrested...
Sexual battery?
Against his teenage stepdaughter, foster daughter.
Gotcha. I guess battery to me, I'm like, that's like physical?
That's like violence. Yeah, I can see that. But no, they're considering his sexual relationship with a teenager to be sexual battery instead of statutory rape, which I'll take it. So when police arrested Kevin, they learned that he had been sleeping in Sabrina's bedroom in that house.
Ooh.
Ew!
Yeah.
God.
Fucking loser.
Like without her there.
Correct. She's in prison. And he's sleeping.
And he is literally sleeping in her bed.
Yes.
That's like some weird simp shit that I'm not here for.
Yeah, right. Like that's that guy that stares at you while you're sleeping kind of shit. Yeah.
Right. They're like, me. She's not here. I miss her. Ew.
Oh, man. Now, Sabrina pled guilty to aggravated murder, and she became the main witness in the trial against Kevin Knoefel.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin's trial began in May of 2014. The majority of the case was built around Sabrina's testimony. Other witnesses were able to confirm that the pair had a sexual relationship. Sabrina testified that Kevin had shown her how to kill Lisa, where to stab her, depending upon where Lisa was positioned on the bed.
Dang.
So fucked up. Sabrina's lengthy testimony detailed the affair, the murder, the plot, and the night of the killing. Kevin's defense pointed to the fact that there was no evidence connecting him to the crime. They tried discrediting Sabrina as a witness. They pointed to her mental health history, the fact that she had been taking medication since the age of 6.
The reverse insanity plea.
Right?
Okay, that's kind of spicy.
They said that Sabrina had engaged in violent behavior before living with the Knoefels, fighting in school, and she had even made threats to others, previously, up to and including pulling a knife on her own foster sister, Megan. The jury deliberated for 9 hours on June 11th, 2014, reaching a final verdict. Guilty. Kevin was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. And Sabrina would receive the same sentence, which I'm not sure I
think that's
agree with.
appropriate.
You think so?
I think they're probably both equally responsible.
Okay, I can see that.
Because, like, he was, I mean, if I'm understanding correctly, he was advocating for getting a hitman, right?
She was the one who initially asked, so we don't know if
She asked, but he was the one creating a joint bank
situation.
account where he would pay for it.
Right. No, I get that. I think he's more culpable than she is, even though she was the one who committed the act.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Because I think he took advantage. He knew how to
manipulated her big time.
Exactly. So I just don't agree that she got the same sentence. I think she should have gotten a lesser sentence. But
that makes my first thought was like, I see how this is going. Like, she technically did the murder, so she's gonna get more time, even though it's really like he encouraged it. And so I was like, honestly happy to hear they at least got the same sentence, that like he was getting those consequences. But I see what you mean, that like she was coerced into it.
Yeah, she was a child under his care. Like she had no real idea of what the world was like, not really. So I just think
no stable sense of self.
Exactly. She shouldn't have. Yes, she did a horrific act, and it's clear based on the overkill of it that she was emotionally charged, and
she was capable of it.
Correct. And I do think that I mean, it's crazy to think that she kept going even with Megan in the room screaming at her to stop. So I'm not saying she's not a danger to society. I just don't know that she should have gotten 30 years in prison for it.
What would you have given her?
I would have given her time in a hospital. You know,
okay.
It's just I don't understand. For me, like maybe I don't understand it enough, but I just don't know that she deserved the same penalty.
Right, and I don't like the idea of him having the opportunity for parole, to be honest. He plotted a murder.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised with that.
Yeah.
I know that's not technically like murder in the first degree, but it feels the same to me.
Agreed. So Sabrina apologized to Lisa's loved ones and appeared to be remorseful during the sentencing phase. She is currently at the Dayton Correctional Institute, and she will be eligible for parole in 2042 at the age of 47.
Wow.
Now, this dickhead unfortunately is eligible for parole the same year, but he's obviously going to be quite a bit older, but unfortunately there's not a whole lot we can really do other than writing letters in 20 years-ish.
I mean, he's got to be what, like 20, 30 years older than him, so he's near death at that point.
Yeah, he's in his 60s to 70s, agreed. By then. Yeah, fuck this guy. So in 2017, Haley and Megan filed civil lawsuits against both Kevin and Sabrina in the wrongful death of their mother, and they were awarded over $6 million in damages.
By who?
So that's the question I had, because I didn't really dig too deep. I don't think they're actually going to see the money, because it's not like these two are out making money. You know,
right. I'm sure they're certainly entitled to like all the life insurance money.
Right. And whatever dickhead didn't spend, I'm sure they'll get. But it's just crazy to think that like, oh, I won $6 million that this person can never pay me. Because she's making...
Yeah, I wonder how that works.
Yeah, she's making 3 cents an hour making license plates or however it works today.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm sure when and if they get out, it'll be a garnishment of their wages, but they're going to be post-conviction. They're going to be
right,
not making much money, realistically.
And that's 20 years from now.
So, yeah, what good does that do them?
Exactly. These girls are never really going to see money, but, you know, good for them that they went through the process.
Hopefully they get some, like the forfeiture of all of I'm sure, all of Kevin's assets.
Yeah, that would be the only, because Sabrina obviously doesn't have assets.
No.
Yeah. So Megan has gone on to grow up to be a strong and independent woman, but does not forgive Sabrina.
Good for her. She didn't have to.
And she has gone on to study criminal law. There's no more information on Haley, and obviously that's not something I'm going to dig into if it's not readily available.
Absolutely. Wherever she is, I hope she's all right.
And that is the case of Sabrina Zunich. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crud.
That's such a fucked up case.
It really was. Like, what
Really
the
fucked
fuck?
up.
When I first heard that and added it to this list, I just sat there in my head and I was like, I don't, like, again, I'm back to, I don't know that I blame her. It's not her fault. I'm not sure she would have
Right.
done anything if it wasn't for an asshole like Kevin.
You're
right. She
preying
probably
on the
would, 'cause
weak.
she was doing well. She was doing well in that household until he started preying on her.
Right. Until he started feeling like, oh, I can have my way with this little girl. Fucking
It's fucked up. It's really disgusting.
agreed. I don't understand men like these type of men. I really don't. And there's, and I know we do a lot of these cases, and I'm sure the percentage isn't as high as I think it is, but Jesus fucking Christ, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look too good.
No, it really doesn't. Like for
It
example,
doesn't.
I'm going to share a personal story a little bit. For those who don't know, I work in the restaurant industry. So this week, some fucking loser comes sits at the bar. He comes in wearing sweatpants. Okay. And he waits until he has one of the girls' attention. Like he's making eye contact with her. And he
Mhm.
pulls his sweatpants tight enough so that she can see that he has an erection.
Disgusting.
So as soon as she tells me about it, I go out and I kick his fucking ass out. And like now, so the funny part is I have the nickname of either the enforcer or the Terminator based on who you talk to with our regulars. But like,
That's awesome.
but there's no fucking way I'm going to let someone do that in a restaurant. Not like, I don't even think that's appropriate at a strip club. First off, I can tell you
Gross.
I can tell you right now, they wouldn't even let you in with sweatpants in a strip club because of how thin they are. You understand what I'm going with that?
Ew. Gross. No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, but that's so.
Unfortunately.
But unfortunately, like, you know, I'm at a sports bar. I'm not going to kick someone out for wearing sweatpants. But this motherfucker ever sets foot in my restaurant again, he's going to be turned around so quick. Oh, I'm so pissed. And then he tried to shake my hand, and I was like, "You think I'm touching your hand?"
Like,
What?
no, I know you didn't
Oh.
wash those hands, motherfucker.
Ew.
Fuck no. I was so pissed. But that's what I'm saying.
Ew.
Like,
I know, sir, I know you touched your dick and you did not wash your hands, and I don't want to be near you. Thank
anywhere
you.
near your nasty ass. Exactly.
Thank you.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is why. So not only do I get it here on this podcast, but then I see some of the worst of society out where I work. It's
Yeah,
just,
no,
it's
I
ridiculous.
get you. I mean, as a woman,
Yeah. Yeah. You get it worse than
I've
I
seen and
do.
experienced it too. And you know what? Because I am a woman who is a grown woman, I don't even experience it as much as I used to. The horrific thing. And
Oh
I've
my God.
heard the same thing. Even though I'm probably more attractive than I was younger. Oh my God.
But
the
because
way
you're not a little
I used
girl.
to get ogled and sexually harassed as a teenager versus the way that I am now.
Right. That's crazy.
And this is the experience of so many women and girls that I know that like we're left alone way more now than when we looked like minors.
That's crazy.
And that's so disgusting.
Although on the flip side, there was a time we went out to hang out with some rock bands at a bar, and you were very clearly interested in the drummer of one of these bands.
Yup.
In fact, Jameson, you were there that night too, now that I'm remembering.
I was. Yep, I remember.
And you looked so young the way you were dressed and done up. And this guy clearly didn't trust how young you might be. And he didn't give you the attention you wanted. So good
This is
for
true,
him.
which means that he was not a gross man.
That's what I'm saying. So good for
I love
him.
that.
But
Not true of all men. I will never say it's
That's
all
right.
men.
it was so funny though. You were like so disappointed. You're like, no, you're not showing me any attention.
I know, man. I guess I have better game now.
I definitely.
As a grown woman
But you
than I
also-
did then.
But you also did look like you were like 15 that night.
Yeah.
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 So
Baby face.
So good
That's
for
what it'll do.
good for this rock star who will remain nameless. Good for him for not taking advantage of who he thought was a minor. So.
Yes.
So all right. Well,
That's so funny.
that will wrap up this week. Thank you everybody for listening. Once again, I am Janice Dead,
Jameson dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
and we'll see you next week.
Bye.